Good afternoon. Welcome to Shop Talks, presentation of In Kitchen. Check us out at inkitchen.com. Check out our YouTube channel. Brought to you by Impressions, the show and the magazine. And we have our sponsors here. Howard Transfers, right? Stalls, Alphabroder, Lane 7, Her Solutions in Los Angeles Apparel. Got folks here from Howard Transfers and Stalls, but that's not why. I got them here because they're experts, not because they're sponsors. Anybody that knows me knows that's true. We're going to talk about the future of transfers, which of course will mean a little bit talking about what's going on now and where it's going. So we have Jody from Howard. We got Nate from FM Expressions. Mark Bailey's here from the garment side of things from SanMar. He's the decorator relations person. They kind of care how their stuff is decorated. It was a unique thing when they started, and it's been, they set a good example, I guess. And then we got Josh Ellsworth from Stalls Transfer Express. Let's gonna start with Mark here, actually. So, Mark, I think you and I have talked. You're kind of happy about like that there is a future of transfers, that no matter what you come up with, that they're going to come up with solutions. And that's kind of maybe the beauty of transfers. Let's start with that.
Yeah, it's certainly one of the easiest way to decorate our products. Pretty much everything we do supports heat applied technology. And we've really tried to make it easy for our customers with all of our products. We have deco spec sheets on each landing page, and you could go in there and see all the different ways that particular item can be decorated, what those areas are, ranges, and then kind of tips from our experts here. So we try to make it easy as possible for you.
Is there anything yet that can't have a transfer on it?
No, I mean, really, the one thing that we fought with for years was anything with DWR finish or waterproofing, and our network has solved that.
Amazing. All right, and kind of predictable, right? Unlike screen printing. I'm a screen printer, and I know that garment manufacturers sometimes ask me, all right, how do we set our dryer, and how do we print it, and all that, and it's like gets really complicated. It seems like you can. Maybe you transfer folks can correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like there's a transfer, a temperature, a time, and a pressure for just about any product if you do a little testing.
Yeah, I'd say the big three are time, temperature, and pressure. And I always make the analogy, the transfer is your frozen pizza, the heat press is your oven. And so your pizza tells you what to set the oven for. And then really the only other factor is you need to make sure that the garment or the product that you're buying is not going to be damaged by the temperature the transfer is calling for, right? So you may want to create sort of buckets or lists. If you know you're sourcing a heat sensitive item, have these transfers, these products that will work across that mix.
So where are we at now, like compared to even a couple of years ago, before we go future? Like what problems have you guys solved for folks that maybe 5 years ago even you maybe weren't sure that you were going to do? Like, what have been some breakthroughs that your customers really like, I guess?
I love that phrasing, problem solving. We talk about that all the time. A few years ago, we used the phrase, we can print on anything, we can solve any problem. And it was almost lip service, I would say. I don't want to say that, but it kind of was. And now I would say, it's almost 100% accurate. With transfers, we really can solve any custom decorating problem with the full color options that are available. With the, you hit the nail on the head with the waterproof garments. I mean, there really is an option for almost every garment, every substrate.
So it's gone from aspirational to reality.
It really is. It really was. It was just a marketing term that you kind of put out there and hoped that it stuck, and now it's honest.
Yeah, I'll jump in here too. So I think for us, what we've seen is the low temperature application, right? More and more technical fabrics. People are scorching garments that they didn't used to scorch. And well, wait a second, what's that mark? How do I get rid of it? How do I lower my temperature to apply technical fabric? And then, we were screen printing full color, I don't know, 2006, 2007, we started doing that. the old school way. We're making process screens. We're printing CMYK with squeegees. And today, most of that's being done with digital prints. So that's coming fast in the transfer world, and we're going to see that continue. And I see, the other challenge is the low MOQ. Can we lower the MOQ for more and more online fulfillment options, right? People don't want to make investments in inventory. They want to get it on demand to be able to press to their demand.
Well, that's a good one to lead into Josh here. That's one of your new things is like to speed up the whole process, right? You're like by midnight you get it sent out the next day or something, right?
Yeah, we like to focus on speed and quality and driving those forward as quick as possible. And I think enabling print on demand with just a heat press is something that's very important to the industry, because it's very easy to start lean and scale with a heat press and train on it. And so we saw that come to life over the last few years with the lack of skilled labor, people having problems not only finding people, but retaining people, driving some of the fulfillment in your business through a heat transfer press has really simplified that. And so now our goal is, if we don't have technical labor or the bricks and bodies that we used to have, right, from an overhead perspective, we need to get the transfers into the apparel decorator lightning fast. And so we've been constantly trying to push back the systems and the automation we use, like all of us have collectively, to be able to get it to hopefully one day order today, ships today. But a lot of stuff is now order today, ships in a day, or ships in 2 days.
I was hoping that you'd start sending it to me before I think about it.
Yeah, the predictive element is interesting as well, but we're not quite there yet.
Put the transfers on before they come out of the box, all of that. So I see in the industry, I don't know if you guys do, there's sort of two directions. One is like the super high tech, big automation, et cetera. And the other is almost like, I'll just call it crafter and side hustle. My friend Stan Banks is really great at serving that market. Let's start with the smaller guys, right? Seems like years ago there would be a lot of hand presses for sale here, and now like you can get into decorating, buying your products and having a heat press and getting customers. You see a lot of that in your world, and more of it coming.
Yeah, the barrier of entry is just getting lower and lower. So right, like even the print transfers, right? You can buy a DTF printer on the show, you can make transfers. You can buy a heat press over there for under $200, right? The one that they're using to press the shirts over there. So to get started is a very low barrier. And I think, that prosumer, that side hustle you're talking about, we're seeing with, Cricut and Silhouette and that entry into that crafter space, people start making products, they make something cool. Friends like, hey, you should sell that.
Not even crafter. Yeah. I mean, a genuine, really good artist can make their own things, right?
It turns into a hustle quickly. Like you go to Etsy, go to Shopify, and you're in business. So the barrier of entry is super low to get started.
It is, and I'll just add, with heat applied technology, we're seeing a big trend of kind of build your own brand, right? These guys make it really easy to, take one of our items that has a tearaway tag, heat apply your own label inside, and then kind of whatever artistic designs, and it just really makes it easy to separate yourself in the marketplace.
Yeah, you do a lot of that, right? A lot of neck labels and stuff.
We do. We we sort of have a process for neck labels that makes it super efficient, roll-to-roll neck labels. When we talk about heat transfer technology, I think that's sort of next level thinking for us. And you could take that a next step and think about how we would increase efficiencies on other products, not just neck labels, with that same process.
Yeah, I know that you can also, people can't even tell, right? I remember I took one of your transfers, it's probably been others, but I took one of your vintage transfers at one show, brought it around to the screen printing people, said, I didn't print this, but what do you think of it? And I think there was only one of them, and they were all the technical people that knew that it was a transfer. Yeah. But you can't tell the difference now, right? That
was one of the best marketing things that we did. That was a great idea. We owe you a commission on that, because we actually deployed that.
This is on camera.
Yeah, okay, well... We'll negotiate after, but we put the 3 shirts up, and that was a challenge. Like if you pick the right one, we'll give you a coupon, right? And people could not tell the difference anymore. So yeah, I think that that was a hurdle for us for a long time, is getting over the perception of the Daisy Duke peeling transfer from the 70s and see today.
Yeah, and actually at that same show, I think so it was a friend of my artist, and he was going to start a shop of screen printing. He had worked at Echo a long time ago, and we talked him out of it. Like, we talked him down from the, and instead, I think he went around to probably all three of your companies, saw all the options that you had, and at the show he bought a heat press. And you know, he was in business selling stuff that looked like what he would have printed without all the pre-press and the hassle and a lot goes into it. I'm a screen printer. I know you don't really want to do it unless you really want to do it. If you just want to make shirts, transfers seems like the best way to start with that. All right. Anything else you want to say about the kind of the beginner type getting in?
I would just say focus on the customer and customer acquisition and figure out your business model and how you're going to serve them. Don't fall in love with the technology. It's going to evolve so fast. And, you know, there's multiple competitors here on the stage. It's our job to figure out and serve you and figure out your needs. And so you've got options. If we can't solve it, they can. If they can't solve it, they can. And so that competition is going to create opportunity for you. So I would spend all of your time getting customers and figuring out your business model. And, you know, the unit economics, you're going to put pressure on us to solve that problem. If we can't figure it out, somebody else will for you.
I think one statement about the future is just that all three of you are sitting here with me, and that this is a growing thing. It's just going to get bigger and bigger, and whatever market share you might compete over is really almost irrelevant compared to the explosion of heat-applied technology. Would you guys all agree? I guess you agree by sitting here. You don't have to say a damn thing.
For sure. And I would say we're talking about T-shirts, right? But, you know, that's where most people lead. But the great thing about heat-applied technology, it gives you the ability to sell outerwear and headwear and bags and all other categories that are much more profitable than the T-shirt. So don't sell yourself short when you're, you know, working in the field. Make sure you have good representation of all different products that speaks to the markets that you want to service.
I mean, I think we're as good a screen printer as ever, you know, just about anybody. And we buy a ton of transfers. We take in many jobs that if we don't know the transfer solution, we would not do it. Right, Amy?
Yeah. And I would just like to add to that, like, as we're thinking about what we call the craft hobby space, right? And decorators may be here from that space that do a certain thing. But then in sort of the B2B or the heat press pro space, as we like to call it, I feel like you really have to push yourself to do something that can't be done at the hobby craft level. And usually that comes either in the knowledge that you're gaining from visiting the booths and seeing what's possible, but pushing into premium brands, premium items, premium product assortment that either A, isn't accessible, or B, can't be decorated with a quality result at a craft hobby level. And so we're still seeing a pretty big difference in what's possible at the B2B level from an equipment standpoint and an accessory standpoint that should allow you to not be complaining about the Cricut dad or the Cricut mom, you know, stealing or impacting your business. So knowing your customer, crafting unique value, and going a little higher on the premium side is going to make a big difference on competitive pressure and unique advantage.
I'm just going to talk here a little bit about a sort of a transfer machine thing that seems to have freed you all up to make more interesting things, which is the bottom applied heat. Like, that seems to have really made, like, all of you have an explosion of the things that you can apply your transfers to and the type of transfers you can do because you're not squishing it, technically speaking. Has that really made a difference for, like, your being able to think outside the box of the previous transfers that you would do?
I mean, that's Josh's point exactly right there, right? So that's the difference between the hobby crafter and the professional decorator. You know, when you start bringing in synthetic fabrics, technical fabrics, you know, if you want to outfit your high school with uniforms and the swag that, you know, the colleges are you know, matching those programs, those garments are all technical, they're all heat sensitive. You don't want to have scorch marks on them, and the bottom heat solves that for you, right? You can decorate those without having sublimation issues, and, you know, that's the win there.
And you also can have three-dimensional more, right, than you could have before, probably, right?
Yeah, and I've actually started to think through this and developed an acronym that I call the ARCH method, and that's for leapfrogging your competition and getting to more professional results. So from being able to accommodate those fabrics and all the products, some of which we'll pass around here, A is making sure you have accurate pressure. People usually apply way too much pressure on the machines, and so quit killing the garments with the pressure you're applying. R is reduced heat transfer, so build those transfers that apply to reduced heat. C is for your cover sheet, so the correct cover sheet. There are now not just craft paper and Teflon, there's foam pads and cover sheets that help reduce scorch marks, and the H is heated lower platen. And so if you check all of those boxes, it's going to allow you to print more products accurately with a quality result.
Actually, before I forget, this is a future thing. Do you see there being development of more types of cover sheets to give textures to the products that you make? Is that going to be possible? You know, one objection to some transfers and stuff is that they're too smooth, or there's certain aspects that aren't what people like about screen printing. Is there ever going to be any development with the cover sheets?
I would say
I've seen people use like sandpaper and stuff like that. Is that going to be more exacting?
go to a fabric store and buy different swatches of fabric and test some things out. So you get some linen, try that as a cover sheet. It gives a finish that you may prefer. Find what you like as a finish. A nice heavy linen is going to give a finish that is going to melt into the fabric and give it a fabric-like finish, if that's what you're after. If you are after a sheen, use Teflon. Play with things, but use your creativity. Don't just purchase what's available on our websites.
I'm already glad I came.
You can actually
I
cover,
learned something.
if you just want to break the set on a smooth finish, cover it with a cotton t-shirt. Just hit it with a cotton t-shirt quickly. And
We have some of those.
soften
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
We have lots of those.
Yeah, SanMar can help you with the cotton t-shirts.
Mark can help you out with that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity for creativity there as well. So we're seeing more cover sheets available from your suppliers, but sandpaper, I've heard that one on print cut film in the past. Now that we have the direct to film transfers, we're already starting to get a little bit more closer to what you're after naturally on the product, but experiment and you'll come up with something that's part of your secret recipe that allows you to stand out from everyone else.
So is there anything that's not transferable to now that you think will come around eventually? Mark, anything that you have that they can't put transfers on?
I think the biggest challenge is like polypropylene, for us, and finding more resources to be able to decorate that in just one color or two, full color process.
We should talk.
Awesome.
All right, so they're on it. That's good. And what about the application? So what's going to happen? You make some equipment, but in a way, better that you all talk about that. What will happen, do you think, future-wise? I mean, I've seen some attempts here. Where's that space going in terms of application of transfers? I know you make rolled ones that people have machines for, right?
Yeah, we make roll-to-roll transfers. I think.
You want to explain what that is? Because I think that, I went to Fanatics once and, pre-Super Bowl, and they, putting them on like crazy, and I hadn't seen one, and I don't think everybody's seen that.
Yeah, it's just it increases your efficiency. It's a transfer on specifically for neck labels. If you imagine a neck label, and it's very difficult to explain, but it's on a roll and it feeds into your heat transfer. And so if you take your shirt and you just throw it on your platen and it plops down.
Boom, boom, boom.
Boom, boom, boom. I mean, it couldn't be more efficient. You don't have to really move at all. It does the work for you. So for me, I think of how do we increase efficiency. If you walk around the show today, you're going to see some pretty innovative solutions as far as heat presses go. There's some new options out there that are just different than you've seen. It's not the clamshell, it's not the swing away, it's not the automatic pneumatic presses anymore. So take a walk around. They're different than they have been in the past, but they're more efficient. And I think that's the future. We're going to see that evolve in the next few years.
More control of those things you said, right? I mean, the more accurate with the pressure and time and so forth.
And I think there's a large selection of presses on the market that are accurate with time and temperature and digital pressure. Or air pressure for some of the more automated machines. But to me, the biggest question that we've been asking ourselves is, what are apparel decorators doing while their heat press is locked down? To me, that's the biggest opportunity for downtime, assuming we're staging the garments before they get to the press, right? So everything should be ready for that heat press or operator. We like to encourage people to measure in time the machine is open versus closed. And so having equipment that connects to the cloud where you can pull production reports by operator and a manager can look across that is helpful. And rather than impressions, we recommend measuring open time versus closed time, because when the heat press is not in a closed position, you're not making money. But also when it's in the closed position, what are you doing to make sure the next one is ready so it's not open too long? And so we firmly believe in the dual base systems, or some cases 2 heat presses side by
left
side.
and right's a little faster, right?
Is another option, because then that same operator can step to another station and actually be loading the press instead of taking a drink of their beer or whatever you're doing.
Actually, so this leads me to something else. As decoration gets faster and faster, whether it's screen printing, transfer, DTG, et cetera, the information seems like even more important. Like what transfer goes on what garment and where the hell does it go after it's on there? So what do you see happening there? That's not necessarily a space that your guys are working in, but in a way I'd love to see your take on where that's going, because that seems like in some ways the limiting factor as you get faster and faster with your applications.
I have a lot to say, but I want to give everybody else a chance. Okay. So I think with digital printing, one of the biggest challenges as well is getting to the staged position by the heat press, especially for larger shops. So you don't want to run super high on inventory where you're stocking blanks and stocking transfers. So ordering those things when you have the order and being able to match those things together so it's staged quicker and faster. And then ultimately after it gets pressed, so it can match in the bin location or the shipping box after the fact with everything else that's come through the shop. So I do see...
Never mind if it needs multiple applications, right?
Right, exactly. And so I do see heat transfer as we move to the next 5 years being stated as a department in a shop in more shops, along with when we say we do screen printing, embroidery, we're going to be doing heat transfer. It'll be a dedicated department. And hopefully some of the shop management solutions and e-commerce solutions can integrate with transfer manufacturers. They've already integrated with blank apparel manufacturers, so it's much easier to scan, to batch things, and to get it to press and ready to go and get it through the shop in an efficient way.
It does seem like the blanks, I've been at one of the fastest making of DTG prints on shirts, and the room of them doing that and the machines were amazing. But in the other room were like a fire drill of people running around with barcoded stickers, and it was like madness. You know what I mean? That part, I don't know what's going on the blank end. We ever gonna have RFID or some kind of things on the shirts at your end where they come in, or are people working on somehow some integration between you and the shops?
Well, yeah, especially for large production facilities, we have our LPN service, license plate numbering. So if you're integrated and you have scannable capabilities and you map it correctly to your software, you can literally just scan the package and it'll tell you what's in there. So we already have that service. People have
Future
asked,
is now.
Yeah, people have asked us for more, but the problem is a lot of people don't goods trackable. So, the RFID tag we've talked about, but I don't think that's going to come anytime soon.
Right. You don't want to have that tag later to let people know how long you were down at the old Dubliner, right?
Right. Well, or walking around the stadium selling illegal goods.
That's a possible aspect of the future, actually. You know what? Let's show a few samples of sort of the future that's now. How about that? I know that Jody and Josh have a few samples, and you can go to fmexpressions.com and check out what those guys are up to.
I didn't bring anything. My bad.
No, but we all offer free sample packs on our website because we know testing and trying stuff is really important. So take advantage of those from all the transfer manufacturer websites. So I'll just start with direct to film. You guys may have seen it on the show floor a little bit, yeah, right? A little bit last year, a little more this year, and it's just going to keep expanding. So what I love about direct to film is that you can apply it at a low temp. If you do the right things, you can apply it at a low temp, and you can accommodate synthetic fabrics in this product assortment that we've been talking about better than ever before. And quite simply, because I'm a salesperson at heart, is you can just say yes to the job without the complexity of, hey, it needs an outline, or I'm gonna have to charge you per color. It takes away all that friction in the sales experience and lets you just say yes. And so I'll pass some of the samples around so you guys can see that across a few different treatments.
Josh, you have your handler there.
What's that? Thank you. And then I also want to say, I brought this one because I love this example. I didn't make it, but this shows you kind of like how you can integrate the decoration with the garment and hit multiple logo locations. And so being able to not have to burn a screen for every logo location, but having the transfer and varying the placement on the garment and getting really unique with applying it over seams or near seams, et cetera, is going to help you deliver more value to that client. So I think that's pretty exciting as well.
Part of that is an explosion of what do you call it? I guess the Platens that go on the heat transfer presses and the form. I mean, I remember I was shocked that somebody, Los Angeles Apparel actually had a shoe they wanted decorated, and you were able to, in a pretty short time, figure out a way to configure your heat press and apply a transfer to that shoe, right?
It's possible. You just got to be willing to ruin one thing or two things, and you can figure it out pretty quickly, and you can have a business nobody else has in that recipe. Jody, did you have some samples you wanted to show as well?
Yeah, we were talking about waterproof nylon jackets. So this is an example of two kind of options for transfers. So this is our water-based screen printed transfer. Goes on waterproof nylon jackets, and it also combines what we call mixed media options, which is a matte ink and a shimmer or metallic ink here. So, we really take the word custom seriously, and we just want to drive home that, mixing inks and
Really, I would say 5 years ago, if someone asked me to decorate that, I would have just said no.
Heck
I said no. I mean, maybe if there was 5,000, I would have figured it out, but otherwise, no.
Well, someone was telling me a story of how, and you're a screen printer, so you know better than me, but you have to lay them all around your shop and wait 24 hours, or what is it?
There's all kinds
It's a process.
There's many, many solutions,
So
and they all stink.
Yeah.
Some literally stink, and some just suck. Some screen printers here, I'm sure, know what I'm talking about.
This is our vintage with this has no adhesive powder on it, so it's our vintage. The most screen print like feel to it. So this one, soft. I would say that we have this one in our booth, and that's the one that most people are like, oh yeah.
That's the one where if you were going to start a little manual press shop, it's like, no.
Right.
Get those. They have a vintage one too, FM does.
And then we talk about custom. This is our 12 color. We mix glitter and shimmer and matte inks and any ink we could find in our bucket. We just threw that on there. And
You know what they say? People and crows like shiny things. So that's good to be able to do
we
that.
have plenty of customers that like shiny things. Josh talked about this one too. I mean, you've seen it 1,000 times, direct to film. I'll go through them a little quicker here. People are going, I don't know, crazy for the puff. what's old is new again when we talk about transfer technology.
I would
Or
say I
the
have
future.
100 times more people asking me about puff.
The
Yes.
future of transfers.
Which again, screen printing wise, get the recipe right, the heat, temperature, all that. So, so let's talk about that, because I think in the old days, if you tried to do a puff transfer, you were at cross purposes because you were squishing it as pressing it down at the same time you want it to come up. So what changed?
I don't know.
Different chemistry, or or a delay to it rising, or is it because the heat's from the bottom, or all of the above? But it seemed to be that
Honestly,
yeah.
Nothing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, nothing.
You could always do it.
We were doing that in the 80s and 90s.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's popular again.
Yeah,
But it was, but people had the idea that it wasn't possible for some reason. I think is that because it just in your brain you think you're like flattening the thing with a heat press at the same time you want it to pop up.
There wasn't enough demand for the transfer manufacturers at the time to make
Oh,
it
okay.
profitable, so it became not possible. Same reason you don't want to do that jacket was the same reason we didn't want to do puff.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would just add that with some of these transfers, you want to make sure that you make the right investment in a heat press, because there are some of the Amazon presses. We'll pick on $200 presses being sold on Amazon. You're going to get it's more than meets the eye. So you may not get a completely flat heating element if you hold a straight edge up to a corner to corner. And if you don't have consistency and flatness in that, you're dead in the water on the pressure element. And so you get puff, for instance, that puffs at different densities because of the quality of the heat press. And so you just need to be very considerate to make sure you have accurate equipment to get the best results across all the products.
What? I mean, I know 100 or 200 bucks you can get into it, and then maybe you make some money, you get a better one. Where approximately is the level where you're getting one that really has a lot of control?
Yeah, and I'd like to challenge the first part of that. So 100 or 200 bucks to get into it, and then you get a good one, you probably lose customers along that journey. That makes it cost a lot more. So you got to be careful about saying, it's good enough, right? It needs to be accurate. But I would say
You can fight Stan Banks on that one, not me.
we have a good time. So he pulled me on video randomly walking to the aisle today and said he's glad I'm working because I was pushing a heat press on a cart and put me on live. So that was fun. But I don't know. I think that heat presses for $2,000, that's a really nice budget. We have a lot of choices in that $1,000 to $2,000 range, and you can pick one that's great for you. Automation, I think, starts to happen around the $4,000 plus price point.
All right, you got some other samples?
I would also say that, having a machine that has the interchangeable Platens is really important, because that allows you to decorate products, right, versus just the big press. And then I'd also like to say that, our biggest challenges that we deal with at SanMar from customers is folks not completely communicating with their transfer suppliers about the fabric that's going to go on. So you really need to understand the fabric. They'll help educate you with the right consumables to then apply, and then maintenance of the machine. You really got to keep it maintained. So many issues that we deal with when we visit shops is because they just never maintain their equipment, and then they're wondering why it's not working.
That's a great point, maintenance. I would say when you change out the batteries in your fire detector, maintenance your heat press. It's a good way to remember.
That always happens at 4 a.m, though.
No, you're supposed to do it, every 6 months? There's a time that you're supposed to do it. That's
Usually happens when I'm out of town and my wife calls me and says, why did But yeah, I think so. The puff is a nice transition to, I think, the texture element of heat transfers that we see trending. So I like to say tech, which is technical fabrics, and being able to do those in texture. And so we start to pull vintage texture through the puff materials, but also being able to consolidate processes underneath the heat press. So for instance, sublimating twill would be one of these samples that has just a unique capability for texture. And so going on a jacket back or something that may be leaned up against a wall that's going to be scratched, having the sublimation ink inside of the twill is going to help the graphics stay durable. So that's a big opportunity with bringing in more texture. And then also being able to do things like embroidered patches or 3D embroidered patches or PVC patches, all with a heat press using that lower heat and the equipment that's out there, getting into new markets. So for sure, texture would be something that I would definitely want to go after. Why? Because it's premium. It elevates brand logos. It's going to allow me to make more profit per hour and show something different to my client. And I'd also encourage you to go after textured fabrics. People are scared to death to decorate like a Sherpa or a micro pile on a fleece or something like that. And with heat transfers, if you pick the right patch product, you can absolutely cover the texture of that fabric. And so here, another sublimated twill example, taking these products across textured fabrics is a big opportunity for decorators.
That's a wow. So what's next? I mean, so one thing is I think that the whole matching things up is an issue. The other is how about the creation of the transfer, like the art process? Is how much is that going to advance? I mean, yesterday we talked about artificial intelligence starting to help people do their art, et cetera. Where are we going with the speed of from a design in your head to a finished transfer?
Yeah, you're on it. So we're going to see AI designed art. People are going to get on Dolly. They're going to create content, and the same thing they're using for the DTF machines out here. They're going to send us a 300 DPI PNG, and we're going to print it. Right? I mean, that's the world we're heading towards. The days of like learning Corel, and I think those are probably behind us.
I'm really excited about what's next and where technology is going from an art standpoint, because I think being able to take that and make sure we have platforms that allow us to extend that to our customers, decorators, right? And that fully connect with APIs, so I can reduce that customer touch and really scale. So the automation, while it's frightening in some ways from an art standpoint to some of what we're skilled at, I think it's also an equally interesting opportunity to be able to bring more work through the door, produce it faster, and really connect our systems together.
How about a hand for these folks?